Rabbit, but unfortunately, Warner Brothers was unable to use Disney characters in this movie. So you ever seen this movie and curious as to why there's jokes about Disney? Now you know.
Good old Warner Brothers taking pot shots at the fucking mouse. So, but yeah, in some weird, roundabout way, this was kind of an answer to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, sort of. I mean, the same animation techniques were definitely used here. The blend of animated cartoon characters and live action. So, this movie was, way back in '96, man, this movie was like a machine. All right. Like, it was popular. It's still popular. You know, people had been begging for a sequel for years, and they finally got one a few years ago, starring LeBron James. Which that less said about the sequel and more talk about this one with Michael Jordan.
Well, anyway, as we said before, the reason Space Jam came to existence in the first place was to compete was to compete with Disney, but Warner Brothers, when they loaned out their characters to Disney for Who Framed Roger Rabbit, they were kind of expecting Disney to honor the agreement by loaning out their characters in some way, shape, or form for Space Jam. And to my understanding, the aliens were going to be we're going to be be Disney characters, or at least the referee was going to be Mickey Mouse or something. But Disney Disney was not going to honor that agreement, and they were not surprised when Disney said no to loaning out their characters. So as a result, when they made the movie, it worked out to their advantage because I'm not sure if Space Jam would have worked if the two opposing basketball teams was one Disney, one Warner Brothers, because I just can't picture Mickey Mouse doing basketball. I hate to say it, I hate to say this, say this about anyone who's a Disney fan, but I just can't picture Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck shooting hoops. More does Bugs Bunny and Daffy Duck, but it works for them because of the way the movie was made and directed. But 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 again, Warner Brothers knew their agreement for Roger Rabbit was not going to be honored when it came time to make Space Jam. So that's why there's jokes about Disney in the movie throughout the course of the production.
So this was originally started because of a Nike commercial.
Ooh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean this goes back before Space Jam was a movie, but there was Nike commercials with Michael Jordan, the Air Jordans, all that fun stuff, and the reason that's space theme and you had the Looney Tune characters. So that's kind of how they greenlit this movie to star Michael Jordan. Now, coincidentally enough, this also was filmed during that era in the mid '90s when he was retired. So if you remember, after that first three-peat he had with the Bulls, he retired and he went to go play baseball. And then he unretires and they have one more three-peat. So this was like filmed right in the middle of that. So for anyone who's not familiar with the plot of this movie, so basically there's a convergence or merging of Looney Tunes of the Toon world and the real world. And the Monstars, the goons, or whatever the fuck you want to call them, they're trying to steal talent, right? So they infiltrate the real world and they steal the talent of all the, you know, top stars of the basketball world at the time, like Patrick Ewing, Charles Barkley, so on and so forth. And they stage a basketball tournament with the Looney Tune characters. And then basically, if they lose, they become slaves to the Monstars fucking planet. That's the gist. So they kidnap Michael Jordan and they make him play on their team. And then they have a basketball game of all the Looney Tunes shenanigans. And then they also like introduce Lola Bunny. That's the story.
Well, anyway, Michael Jordan. For those of you who don't know who he is, I would be surprised if someone here in the comment section doesn't know who he is. He was what to basketball, what Tom Brady is to football. He was the GOAT of the NBA, and its popularity goes beyond sports. He has his brand of sneakers named after him. That still continues to sell by hundreds of millions of dollars to this day. Um, and his status as a basketball player is kind of like has not been really matched by anyone current right now. Like maybe for the except for LeBron James, but Michael Jordan was basically he was to doing to basketball what Tom Brady did for the Patriots, and the Chicago Bulls ever since they lost Jordan have never been the same as the team ever since. But I'm gonna now offer some critique about Space Jam because while this movie was going to be the Warner Brothers' answer to Who Framed Roger Rabbit, the movie kind of doesn't have the same appeal as said movie, and I'll tell you why. One, Warner Brothers did not put as much effort into the animation as Disney did for their movie. Like the animation works just fine for Space Jam, but I could tell that with it for Who Framed Roger Rabbit that they had a more expert team working on animation than they did on Space Jam, and in some scenes it shows. But another thing I'm going to criticize is they were fortunate that Michael Jordan had acting charisma. He's not an actor by any stretch of the imagination, but he has enough charisma to pass off as an actor. When they did the sequel with LeBron James, one of the reasons why that movie tanked was because LeBron James just doesn't have the same appeal as Michael Jordan on the big screen. Big
Dude,
screen, but Michael Jordan, but but basically the movie kind of like suffers from a very weak plot. Like basically the gist of the movie is Toon World, as you said, is colliding with the real world, and the aliens are stealing the talent from key basketball players from the and they challenge the Looney Tunes to a contest, and they need Michael Jordan to save the day. But but the movie the movie to me just doesn't have the same appeal as Who Framed Roger Rabbit. Like, well, I'll say this: the soundtrack outlasted the movie in terms of popularity. You know, it's proven now R. Kelly was a pervert and a very naughty person, but like his music kind of helped elevate the movie a little bit because if that wasn't in I'm not sure if Space Jam would be the same.
dude.
Same, but go on, Derek.
And it's like everything. If you want to know what the 1990s were like,
Mm.
just watch Space Jam. You know, the only thing it's missing is grunge music. But I mean, like you said, the
grunge,
soundtrack.
grunge music is basketball.
I, well, I'm just saying, if you want like a time capsule of what the 90s were like, watch
Mm.
Space Jam, dude. Look, it's a fun movie. It's not a great movie. Like, it has a weak plot, kind of like the recent Super Mario Brothers movies. Like, it's just a weak plot. And what you were saying earlier about Michael Jordan, like the dude cannot act. No, I'll give you credit. He has some charisma. I mean, they kind of work around his abilities, right? I mean, it works, but that dude could not have an acting career outside of sneaker commercials. And then like Bill Murray's in there for some reason. And
Well,
I mean, dude, it's a weak plot, but I mean, the soundtrack slaps, dude. Yeah, yeah. Before R. Kelly was exposed to being a total goon, he was on top of the world at this point in time, and because this was released in 1997, and he had the hit single "I Could Believe I Could Fly," and those other catchy songs like the title song, like the Space Jam title song. You know, I mean, all this stuff outlives the movie and adds to like the nostalgia, like bait factor, right? And for us '90s kids who grew up on it, we love that nostalgia bullshit. But I do have to say, it's not a very good movie. Yeah, it's not a terrible movie. But it's not a very good one.
well,
Look, Space Jam 1 is definitely far superior to Space Jam 2. There's no getting around that. Space Jam 2 is just a giant commercial for all the Warner Brothers IPs. That's really what it was. So, with all that said, you know, everything like pop culture wise in the 1990s came together. Michael Jordan, R. Kelly, the Looney Tunes are brought back. It's nostalgia, bait was strong even in the 90s, right? Like Kiss made a huge comeback during the same time period. So why not the Looney Tunes? And well, they come back to the forefront for a bit there with this movie.
then he has to add. But as you said, it's a good fun movie to watch, but it's not a class. It's not like a true um Oscar worthy classic, but it's good fun, especially if you have nothing else to do on a rainy day.
All right, cool. That's it.